Now that we've taken split screen out, if we open up level 1 or level 2, we're going to see that we have no camera around. So we need to add our camera setup to our other scenes. And first thing that we're going to do is turn it into a prefab. We have this Cinemachine brain that has the camera on it and the brain component, the virtual camera, and our target group that right now has a player assigned to it. Let's select all three of these objects, right click, and add an empty parent by choosing the create empty parent. I'm gonna call this multiplayer camera setup, and then I'm gonna drag that into my prefabs folder. Now I've got a multiplayer camera setup that I can add to my other scenes. So I'll go into level 1. I'll make sure that I save my sandbox scene, go to the prefabs folder and take out my multiplayer camera. Now I can see it in here. I'll save that, and I'm gonna go into level 2 as well and just grab that camera in so that I've got the same camera setup for both of them right now. I could of course have a different camera setup, and that's something that happens very often in games. So we'll have a slightly different camera setup for each different level, but base them off of a single prefab. Let's go back into the sandbox scene though and do a little bit more work. So we've got our multiplayer camera set up. Let's press play, make sure that it's all working with the prefab, that we're able to track both players. I've got my controller right here, so I should be able to jump in any second. All right, so run over here, and things are tracking. Oh, Steam popped up. Let's run over here again and let things track. It looks like my characters are tracking just fine. I can get nice and far away, and I can blast that guy. It's looking pretty good. So now that that's working, I want to stop playing and I want to go into level 1 and test out level 1. Let's press play here. And then we'll add in our second character, and I'm going to run over player 1 to the right. Go grab those coins. Keep them running, keep them running. Come over here by this frog and notice that we're not hearing any frog sounds. And the reason for that is pretty simple. Oh, it's pretty simple though. The reason was that player 1 wasn't playing the sounds. It was only the most recent player because I have multiple audio listeners. And if you look at our log, you'll even see there are some logs like this where we've got multiple entries, one per frame, saying that we have multiple audio listeners in the scene. And what's going on is that each of our players, if we look at them, has this listener object on it. If we select it, we've got a listener right here. So they're both trying to listen at the same time, and only one can actually listen. So only the most recently added one is actually going to pick up any sound. So we need to stop playing and change our audio setup just a little bit. We're going to remove the audio listener from our player and put it onto our camera setup. Let's go into player prefab edit mode, remove the audio listener. I'll just right click and hit remove component, go back out, hit save, and then I'm going to go find my multiplayer camera setup and expand it out. And on the virtual camera brain, so this is the object that's following, or that's being moved around, this is where the camera is, we'll add an audio listener. Audio listener, there we go. We now have an audio listener component. We'll add that to the prefab though. So we're going to go to overrides on the prefab and hit apply all. See that it's got the little plus saying that we've now modified this on the prefab. We hit apply, and now if I go into any of my scenes, that should, let's hit save, then we should see the audio listener is on that child right there because we applied it to the prefab. All right, let's go back into level 1. We're going to press play. And we're going to see first if that error is gone. So let's see. The multiple audio listener error is not there. I add in a second player. It's still not there. Let's run over here. Grab some coins. Remember, the coins don't have positional sound on. Go over by my frog, and I still don't hear anything from him. Now let's get the other player over there. And we'll listen some more. And notice that we still don't hear anything. The reason for that is if we go to our camera, let's go find our multiplayer camera. We go find the Cinemachine brain here. And we're going to go into 3D mode and hit F. And look at the position of this camera. Right now it's at -11 because it's moving out and it's moving away. So now our positional check that we were using here for the frog, where we had that range of, what was it, 10 meters away on the audio source? Or did we put that on our 3D sound settings? Yeah, on our max distance of 10, that's no longer in range. So if I crank this up to a 20, Let's see that now we can start to hear it because it's actually kind of pulling out. And if we get closer together so that we're closer to the character or this guy, it should be even louder. And I can run away, of course, and stop hearing him eventually. But for now, I'm going to stop playing, save our scene, and then we'll commit our changes. Let's make sure that we've got that frog's max distance cranked back up to 20 so that we'll be able to hear him when we get somewhat in range. We'll save our scene, go to plastic that we added, multiplayer camera setup, and we'll check our changes in.